Alright folks, what's hell? Behold us a full of your watching board. This is your anchorman Zan here, giving you a quick look at an English undertaking. It's called the English, the real English without the outlandish words. That sounds gripping. Firstly, we know that English is indeed a Germanic language. From its vocabulary to its grammatical syntax, it is indeed a core-bound Germanic language. Well, if you don't understand what is Germanic language, it is shown on the graph here. It's a family consisting of Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, Low German, High German, Frisian, Silesian, Faroese, Flemish, Finnish, Scots, English, and Icelandic. It's all descend from another totally different language then that would correspond to another language's roots. I will discuss them further on. If you still didn't know what is Germanic, then I'll show you an example. This is the West Germanic family. We have Dutch and German as example for comparison with the English language. Then you're starting to see why we group them as West Germanic family, because they look exactly alike, one or akin to each other. I would not say 100% correct, but they look very similar in terms of pattern and the vocabularies. So in this sense, I am great. In Dutch would be ich bin groot. Then in German it would be ich bin groß. I would represent ich and ich as a cognate, am to ben and bin, great to groot and groß. Okay, firstly, disclaimer, if my pronunciation is bad, I'll put this on YouTube, and if that disturbs you, sorry, I apologize first. I'm just a beginner, so disclaimer off, then we'll go to the next phrase. If you didn't see the pattern there, perhaps this will give you a better sense. Since not only they look very much akin, they even sound exactly the same. Give me that. Give me that. Give me a das. So in this case again, give will be cognate to give and give, me to me and mir, that to dot and das. So without all those consonant shifting and some very weird vowel changes in the English language history, you may see that they all come from the same ancestor. That's why we group them as West Germanic, and in the larger scale, the whole Germanic language. I still wonder though, why the English has this spelling mess? I mean, you have seen in the previous phrases that they do sound exactly the same as they're written. And why, when every time you grab a sheet of newspaper, taking a lesson at school, or reading a legal document, you always encounter these big words? These long, immersive, and that sounds strange or foreign words. All these weird vocabularies are plumbing into the English dictionary, and you found them very much alienate compared to our daily speech, like trees, water, sun, dog, pig, or even sheep. These words shown on your screen, didn't that give you a sense of alienness or even outlandish in this case? If you feel nothing, okay, now I guarantee you that you did already know some French. Without further diving into the grammar first, you already knew a lot of French. Or you can even spawn a French newspaper, and you will say, I found a lot of sense of familiarity from the French newspaper, and then you will stumble upon German newspaper, and you will see every word sound exactly the same, but you understand nothing. And if you don't believe me, then I'll give you an example. Try this. Here's an article I found on the news in English, and I will give you a second to read it, and if you may pause the video for further reading, then I will switch it to French first. Again, you may pause for further reading. Then with a snap of finger, these red highlighted words are what first easily spotted by the English-speaking language users. Not just only to the locals, but to anyone who speaks English. They will easily spot these words. For 𝗙𝗄𝗎 first, another disclaimer, my French pronunciation is very bad, in case it's very trash, so please don't be disturbed about that. I'll try my best. Okay, back to the topic. We have the période and transition and partir, the part, retirer définitif, All these common English usage words you found either in legislative or science. English got these words. We just basically got them from French. Then we'll look at the German newspaper. Again, you may pause the video for further reading. And to English speakers, aside from 𝗙cie on the top left of the paragraph, and the British at the downward right, and und and widerstand, you can't basically spot anything. I mean, aside from Latin derivatives, you cannot really see any hint or idea on what is this paragraph about compared to French with these much informations. And we'll compare it to the Dutch, since it's also a West Germanic family, right? And you'll begin to see that Dutch has more percentage than German in case of Latin borrowings, and is mostly through French. So we will have the datum, that means date, and intern, that means inner work, and markt, that means market, and period, that means period. So we'll look at our Nordic brothers here in this case. Lesser Latinate borrowings, unless you spot them, there's nothing you can do to comprehend on this base information on what you see, because there's nothing you can easily spot it through English speakers unless you dive further into the language, either in orthography or in the pronunciations, to fully understand what is this paragraph about. And we'll look at a tidbit one, an interesting one, Icelandic, the most purest one. You see, it's so pure that it only has one loan word, one borrowing, that is called markathi. It's basically mercatus, market, from Latin. Aside from that, there's nothing borrowing. There's no borrowing. So it is, I guess, one of the most hardest language for Englishmen to acquire. So you now begin to wonder, why did English gather so many words through the foreign exchanging, including French, Romance, and Hellenic, in this case psychology, dictionary, and chateau, with a hat on the A, and that looks disgusting. I mean, English is a Germanic language like I mentioned before, alongside Frisian, Dutch, German, and its Nordic brothers, from a smaller scope, West German, to a greater scope, Proto-Germanic. They were brothers. They've shared similar grammatical systems and vocabulary. I mean, they should be somewhat akin to each other, right? The truth is 9. As known in German, English is a black sheep in the white Germanic family pen. Just look at how other Germanic deal with this word science. They switch it to the familiar terms, and English just, I guess, steal it from French, right? They steal it from the French. So listen up, freedom folks. Our ego is not even the same as do our other Germanic brothers. English, it would be ego from Latin 𝗙cie𝗿𝗲, and the rest is all from Proto-Germanic aro or something. And interestingly, we cannot find exact cognate in the modern standard English, but we can find in the dialect. So Scott has an for ego, and I think some dialectal UK English also had a similar word for ego as well. But the most used and standard one would be ego. Now you're beginning to wonder why. Why the English has so much influx and so many percentage based on Greek, French, and Latin. I think we're gonna shift our time back forward in the year 1066 to the Battle of Hastings. Firstly, you know that English back in the day was not speaking today's speech. They were Anglo-Saxons speaking Old English and driving Celts to the northern land. That's a tidbit for you to understand. Later came the Old Norse. They strived to the north, slaughtering the north in this case, and they brought a lot of words into Old English. But at that time, Old English was the literature language, so the influence from the Norse is not as much as to today's English, like skirt, angry, hungry, or something. By that time of England, the forefathers, the Anglo-Saxons, they wrote an epic poem, Beowulf, in case you didn't understand what's in this thing. And by the way, here's the manuscript of what is written on the screen in Old English. You can see it's basically unreadable to modern speakers. But I mean unreadable, I'll give a comparison on the Lord's Prayer in Old, Middle, and New English. I will not read that because that's out of my sight, out of my field, and I don't want to be shot. I just want to go away, peace out. So you guys will read it. So back in almost 1,000 years ago, we were speaking a language we never knew, and it's unreadable to today's Englishmen, right? Then you may begin to wonder what made such difference. Well, the point is there were two kings that shaped today's English. I'ma introduce you to the first lad. This king here, his name is Harold Godwinson. Sorry, King Harold Godwinson. He is the last Anglo-Saxon king without much controversy. Yeah, and we have another lad to introduce here. His name is William the Conqueror, and he's also known as the Bastard, and also known as the King of Anglo-Norman, the first one. In 1066, an English trader split the British Isle and European continent, where English and French lies, where Godwinson standing proudly at the English England, and William at the Normandy. And he sailed to England. Yeah, they met somewhere at the northwest of the Hastings on a steep slope, and Godwinson is at a downward hill. He's bearing an Anglo-Saxon shield. And William, in the other hand, is standing on top of a hill and having his horses and his crossbows. That knows the ending. King Harold Godwinson is killed. Since then, England is ruled under French, and for the following thousands years, they are receiving a tons of words of inkhorns and unneeded, unnecessary words of Latin and Greek origin, forming today's English lexicon percentage. As you see on the screen, you may begin wondering, wow, a Germanic language that consists of 29% plus 29% of Romance language. Yeah, that's wild. It only has 26% left of its forefathers' core. I think it's becoming skull in this sense. So we're fine with the old days now. We're going to give it a change. So now, what if, with a plot twist, William is being overwhelmed instead? What does that mean? Thus leading Godwinson to be the god True Winston. Right, that's a pun there. Nice. And England, the Battle of Hastings would belong to the Anglo-Saxons win. They would won the war. Then English vocabulary, without Normans and other influence, will become a full Germanic. Sorry, that reached too far off. But in this sense, English is a project. English is an undertaking that seeks to get rid of any outlandish words as much as you can, thus becoming more like its Germanic counterpart, German, Dutch, and so forth. We want our speech to be bare and easy understood without great inflow of inkhorn and unneeded words. Thus, dictionary will become word book, and airplane book become flight craft. And to remember this thing, the science thing, we will call it wishship instead, computer as reckoner instead, and we will overset instead of translate, and beckon instead of invite, lash instead of catch, token instead of sign, utter instead of pronounce, away instead of sense, selcouth instead of strange, from Old English selcouth. And we have 100 most used words, and there are 4 Latinate origins: use, number, people, and nation. We will swap them out as well into note, rhyme, lead, and feed. So now, here's a question. To what degree are we seeking for? Are we going to get rid of every word that came through other tongues so we can call it a day? No, don't worry. We are not that far-reaching. Although we do stand on the same side at throwing French out of our speech, but we are not settled on which to be the next, since English means unlike to all of us. The only thing we see eye to eye is Anglo-Saxon roots are good, or what else it would be. The rest includes Norse root remains unsettled. What did I mean is that we did not agree, we have no accordance on how English became. Some folks believe that Latinates before 1066 through church or through religious activities are accepted, while others think not. And Norse language, a lot of Norse words has been in English for a long time, and a lot of folks didn't like it because it's not through peace transition. So the borrowing is not through peace, it's through violence and bloodshed. Some folks did not like it as well. And the other thing is, should we go as pure as to any foreign influence should be purged. Again, that's not settled. And what about the Netherlands? They have Frankish words that also came to French, that also came to England. So do we reborrow it from Netherlands instead? Some folks didn't like Netherlands influencing on English vocabulary as well. And another thing is the Renaissance era and the later scientific innovation. A lot of new Latin terminologies also came to English under these Inkhorn scholars. So are they also accepted? We will not see. But one thing for sure is Renaissance, Inkhorn, French, and Romance and Hellenic vocabularies are not allowed. We will ban them instantly. Speaking till now, with stopping loanwords from outside, some folks try to connect these projects to linguistic purisms, neologism, prescriptivism, and even more far-reaching to neo-Nazism. I will say that have yes, have no. Some folks did see this project as a bit too obscure and too extreme, but first of all, we are definitely not neo-Nazism. A disclaimer here. But about linguistic purism, neologism, and prescriptivism, if this was not done in political way but in a poetic and literature way, it would not be a bad thing. Just imagine, if you're writing a medieval fantasy in a huge stack of Romance vocabularies, it could be weird, right? Or else Tolkien wouldn't have his Lord of the Rings series be written in mostly Germanic roots, right? It's only for fun, seriously. That's all the fun part about being in the English language community. We do know one thing, that languages are never pure. Nothing is pure. Since if we broaden our scope of this language then, we are all the offspring of Indo-European languages. So, screw you French anyway. So do you still remember this graph? So this paragraph, I gave you guys the news article previously. This how it would be done in English. Then you may pause for further reading. I'll bring it on. Before we end the clip, here's the preamble of U.S. Constitution, or I should say, Sentence of Hate Speech of the Unlegend Rights of Emerich in English. We have written, with the unlegend rights of Leiden, so as to shape a more fulfilled English, a real rightness in which inland statehood be seen for the man's shielding. Why must the overall welfare and sonden the blessings of freedom to ourselves and our species, laying stifling and temper this sadness for the unlegend rights of Emerich. At last, thanks for your watching. English to me is a fun project to behold English in a creative, diverse, and playful angle. It's really creative to tinker these words out, to see how far can we reach to without any further influence from other languages, to see English as a new language. That's the goal here. And the community is thriving. We have our own newspaper, Reddit, website, workbook, and even our Discord. So be sure to check that out if you feel interested in this project. And before we leave the video, additional thing, this is very important. Do not head to Mood. In case you begin to search for this project and you type English on the Google, this will be the first thing you see. On the fandom wiki, there exists a website called the English Mood. Please don't go to that. Because why? This website is a total mess. How do they deal with the influence of the foreign language? They not only purge them, which all English also did, but they calc the language. The calking thing is only other Germanic languages do. I know for sure one thing, because German Aussprache is directly a calking of Latin pronuncio, which means pronouncing English, and most folks in English community do not agree on calking any terms, so please don't go to this website. It will hurt us a lot if you begin your English language as a project based on this website. So please, you're not going there. Any additional information about the English project, all their links and their info are given in the description section down below this video. So anyways, see ya, bye bye.